Hey guys, STLYoungblood with you, and what I wanted to do today was talk about the pictures that we've seen on today's version of Around the Verse. And if you haven't seen them yet, they're up on the screen right now. Now, a lot of people are speculating about what this actually is. Some people are saying maybe it's the stretch goal of the Prowler landing craft. Other people are saying maybe there's just some sort of probe. Others, and these are the ones that I tend to agree with, think that this is some form of boarding pod. I think we can pretty much assume that this is a Vanduul craft. It looks very Vanduul in origin. It's unnecessarily aggressive, which seems to fit in with some of their other designs. But let me go into some more details on why I actually think that this is a Vanduul boarding pod. Again, this is just my analysis of these pictures. I could be way off base here, but here's what I'm thinking. In the color red, I've highlighted what appear to just be some spikes of some form or fashion. Now, I think what these would be used for is to puncture the hull of a ship and allow this boarding pod to kind of latch itself on and stay in place. Now, in this next picture, in a cyan type color, I've got what appear to be hydraulics. Now, these hydraulics, I think, could either be used for a couple purposes. One, to help push the spikes, to drive the spikes through the hull of a ship. But I do think that's kind of unlikely since this thing has engines on it, and I think it would just use its established momentum to be able to puncture the hull. I think more than likely these hydraulics are used to pull the spikes back or to retract them a little bit, allowing for more conventional boarding actions. Now, how would something like that work? Well, in green here, I've got what appears to be legs. It seems pretty clearly to be legs of some form. Now, with these legs, it doesn't appear that they would be able to reach the front of the ship, at least past those spikes. And I'm not doing any measuring here, but just eyeballing it, I think that would be the case. So I think what would happen is the hydraulics would retract the spikes far enough up towards the ship to allow the legs to come down and actually land this thing vertically. Now, maybe that would happen planetside or maybe in the landing bay of a ship, somewhere where you wouldn't need to puncture the hull. Now, in purple here, I've got what appears to be a hatch. I think it's pretty clear it's a hatch of some type. And I think what would happen is this would unwind open, allowing a slew of Vanduul to come swarming out. And then the last thing I really want to highlight here in yellow is what I think could potentially be cutting teeth. And in order to open up the hole in the side of the ship, you need to be able to get through so your guys can kind of swarm onto the ship. I don't think it's very likely that the Vanduul are going to have the patience to sit there with a cutting torch, not to mention that this thing would probably be loud as hell after it hits the hull of the ship, and then let the security forces get on location and cause a lot of problems. I think what's going to happen with this is these teeth, you know, they're highlighted in yellow there. I think they're going to begin to spin after this thing is connected to the side of the ship, thus cutting the perfect size hole that kind of is going to allow for the hatch to open and people to run in. Now, in this last picture they've included, it doesn't really have the spikes on it that we've seen in other things. So I don't know if maybe this is just a different version, where maybe this is just a pure landing craft. Maybe it's faster or cheaper to produce this. I don't really know. Or maybe this is just an unfinished version, allowing the ATV team to show off a little bit more detail on what this is. Either way, I think this thing is interesting, and based on what I've already talked about, I'm pretty confident that this is a Vanduul boarding pod of some form or fashion. So, let me know. Do you guys agree? Do you disagree? You got your own theories? Is this just some crazy-ass missile? Put them in the comments. Otherwise, stay tuned for a whole lot more content, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.